and welcome to Beacon of Creation, a weekly podcast on game design through the lens of Magic the Gathering. I'm Juliet.
And I'm Tim.
And we've got a exciting design challenge to review today.
So our challenge is Janus Two-Faced, design a non-creature double-faced card, and then a couple bonus points here. War and Peace, the text of the card contains the string equal to the number, so equal to the number of cards in your library, or blah, blah, blah. And then, crucially for this double-sided card challenge, Jack and Jill went up the hill. The submission is easy to read.
Janus, of course, is a Roman god of beginnings, gates, transitions, time, duality, doorways, passages, frames, and endings. Usually depicted as having a double-sided head.
Hopefully people include all those aspects in each card they submit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because we got so many cards, and each card is sort of 2 cards, we're going to split this up into 2 episodes, so we get 10 at a time.
You read all the front halves, and I read all the back halves?
That was one of the gags I was thinking of. What if we just did all the front halves in this episode, and all the back halves in this next episode?
Listen, the challenge was to make it easy to read, not easy to listen to.
Oh yeah, there's no bonus points for us. We're just we do whatever we want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, so our first card here is from Crypt Rat, always lightning fast on the submissions, and they've got a 2-sided card. Maybe what I'll do, because a lot of these are different types, maybe we'll say like the name and the type for each half first, and then dive into it, so people can kind of know what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
So for this one, we've got Look for an Opening, which is an enchantment, and Exploit Weakness, which is an instant. Look for an Opening is a blue mana, single mana for an enchantment. When this enchantment enters, scry 2. And then it has, whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to an opponent, return this enchantment to its owner's hand. And then the backside here, which you can do right away or wait, like this says, until later, is Exploit Weakness, 2 blue, an instant that just says tap 4 target creatures.
So a recurring bit of not card advantage, but card selection. You can scry 2, and presumably or hypothetically, you could pair this with any sort of likes to have enchantments on the battlefield, or devotion, or likes to have enchantments enter, a lot of these things that are kind of Thorosian in a way.
Yeah.
And so I can keep scrying 2 for a single blue mana each turn as long as I've got a creature connecting with an opponent, but I can also cash this card in to tap down my opponent, like the opponent's entire board, effectively.
Yeah. These 2 halves work really well. They work with the names as well. Like I've got one little flyer plunking away every turn, helping me scry, waiting for me to build up my board. And then once I really like my board, I can say, tap your 4 best blockers and let's end this game.
It is funny that if you don't have that little flyer to begin with, you may end up in situations where you're like, okay, I have Look for an Opening on the battlefield, but I don't have an opening, and I would really like to be able to exploit weakness. But the upside of that is you can draw another copy of this card and not have it be fully redundant, which for a repeatable casting card, sometimes, drawing the second copy doesn't do you a lot. Sometimes you can double the effect, but sometimes doubling the effect doesn't mean a whole lot. And in this case, being able to use the backside, that's one of the really high upsides of MDFCs, modal DFCs, is being able to have like redundant copies you draw really be different effects.
You can go straight to the back if you just don't need the friend side. This is also kind of fun, I think, and probably thematic with like prowess creatures, because I'm getting a lot of extra. Even if I don't care about enchantment specifically, I'm at least getting like an enchantment cast every turn. I'll get +1/+1 every turn. My little guy is a little bit bigger, and then it makes sense. Exploit weakness, that's a very prowessy sort of thing to be doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's see. So we have, I don't see an equal to the number in here. like I said, this seems like it would play well alongside equal to the number of enchantment, equal to the number you've like scryed
Yeah.
this turn,
Yeah. Yeah.
equal to your devotion. We're missing that. But I do think this is easy to read. I really like this backside being kind of the simplest form of cryptic command.
Yeah.
tap tap up to 4 target creatures. Sure, yeah. Doing that
Yeah.
at instant speed for 4 mana makes
This
sense.
definitely gives the like easy to read aspect. I think if I was playing against this or I knew this was in the format, I would know all this parts of this card after I saw it in play even once or twice.
And the thematic pairing of the card names, I think,
Hmm.
also helps to carry that forward.
Yeah, this is a great submission.
Yeah. Our next submission is from Peter. It's Kitten Litter, which is a sorcery, and Wolf Pack, which is a sorcery. This is another modal DFC. Kitten Litter is 3 and a white for a sorcery with create X 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink, where X is equal to the number of letters in cat. And Wolfpack is
What?
1 red and a red for sorcery with create X 1/1 red dog creature tokens with haste, where X is equal to the number of letters in dog. The flavor texts here being C ellipsis A ellipsis T and D ellipsis O ellipsis G. And silver border and acorn stamp, Peter
Hmm.
points out for this.
I think this is one of the submissions that we're going to see that's an open defiance of the easy to read aspect, which is fair. We love getting different kinds of submissions, reading different kind of cards. But this is you would need a really strange acorn environment where this would the complexity of this card would come to life. I guess.
The good news is once you've read it and understood it the first time, you know that all of the X's are just equal to 3 in an English language printing
Yeah.
of the card. So you're creating 3/1/1 cats with lifelink for 4 mana, or you're creating 3/1/1 dogs with haste for 3 mana.
Hmm. Yeah. Very funny.
Peter points out, I'm cool if this varies wildly depending on the language of the printing. Yeah,
Hmm.
I think that would be maybe part of what if there is a multilingual
Yeah.
aspect to this particular acorn silver bordered set could
Yeah.
be interesting. Translate target card.
Yeah. Translate target card. Play the I don't know Russian version of the card or something like that because
Mhm.
dog is a little bit longer. I think you probably don't want the Japanese versions because they're probably only one character long, so
Sure.
you're paying a lot for your tokens there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think both in English, both halves of the this is like a super like just normal robust card in English non-acorn land because you just get, your 3 life for 4 or your 3 hasters for 3.
Mhm.
And there's a couple different cat and dog decks, Rin and Seri or something like that. And
Sure.
you might want the cats, you might want the dogs, so it might have a home in that deck. Yeah. This is a way to guarantee 1 bonus point and guarantee lose the other bonus point.
I I think I might go to bat for this being easy to read because it is just a
Oh,
single ability on each
okay.
side. Like
Okay.
it's one line of text, and cats and
Alright.
dogs are pretty easy to remember and tell apart. It's all sorceries.
Hmm.
It's doing the same effect just with a different keyword and creature type on each side.
Okay.
I think I might give it
Alright.
the Jack and Jill point.
Funny. Cat and dog are a good pairing for Jack and Jill, maybe.
Mhm. I wonder if, this was printed a few years ago. I say a few years ago. Listener, you can tell me how long ago this change was made. But anyways, if these were hound tokens instead,
Hmm.
that's a totally different card.
Hound creatures equal the letters in dog. Yeah, that would be worse, you're right.
Or letters in hound, and then you're like, "Okay,
Oh,
well, we're doing We're doing silly things here. It does, of course. I do need to cite everyone's favorite movie, You've Got Mail, and its pivotal FOX scene. Everybody loves learning to spell three-letter animal names.
There we go. Yeah, nice card and funny. All right, next up from Cord, we have Planeswalker class. And then on the back, we have Kasmina Spark Tutor. So we've got a class, a class enchantment on the front and a Planeswalker on the back. This is a blue mana. Gain the next level as a sorcery to add its ability. So this is like the other classes, like the Paladin class or like the Bloomburrow cards.
Mm-hmm.
Just by default, it has when this class enters, create a 1/1 blue and green wizard creature token. And then level 2, so if you pay 2 more mana while this is on the battlefield, when this class becomes level 2, draw a card, then discard a card. And then if you pay 3 more mana, when this class becomes level 3, exile this class, then return it to the battlefield transformed under your control. So the friend side here, you make a token, then loot once, then turn into Kasmina. Kasmina has no mana cost, so you can't shortcut, but it has 5 loyalty and a 0. Put a number of loyalty counters equal to the number of wizards you control on Kasmina Spark Tutor. And then it has -2. Search your library for a Planeswalker, wizard, or class card. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle.
Huh. So you got 5 loyalty to start with, which you could potentially bump up higher, and then you're -2ing it each time to tutor up a planeswalker, a wizard, or a class. I think this is our first in the more complex, at least in terms
Yeah.
of words and things to process, because we have
Mhm.
a 3-step class that then is turning into a planeswalker.
Yeah, I think Court did try as hard as possible to make the friend side simple.
Mhm, mhm.
I kind of feel like the friend side is like a little too nothing because of that to me.
Sure. A 1/1 that has no abilities, but
Yeah.
I guess a relevant creature type in wizard, and
Yeah.
then draw a card, discard a card, and then flip into a planeswalker who,
Yeah.
if you're just using the 0, is not impacting the board at all, is just
Yeah.
ticking up loyalty without doing anything else, and then you can't cash out that loyalty necessarily at a quick rate. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you might be doing a lot of game actions to not necessarily progress your board or like advance the game very much in that way.
I mean, this is a useful card. I think if you had a deck where you had classes or planeswalkers or something like that, it would be fun to play this card because you could tutor up a bunch of stuff.
Mhm.
I think it's actually like totally solid there. Like the playability, I think is good. But it's a cool card. The blue and green, I guess that's probably a like Kasmina. I think one version of Kasmina is blue green. Is that right?
I assume it's like this is a special I don't know, like gifted students, but like sparked students class
Yeah.
in hey, this is in the Quandrix College, but it's actually students of all majors who have a
Ah,
spark can come here and
yeah.
take the Planeswalker question mark class. I
Oh
think
yeah.
6 mana 6 mana on installments to be able to pull up more classes and everything. Does that seem
Yeah.
reasonable?
I mean, I'm maybe not an awesome person to ask for that because I usually don't enjoy playing like tutors and repeated tutors. Because
Mhm.
like if I'm playing this, I'm probably playing it in Commander, and that's not quite my style. I think the pricing is kind of nice, and like if this planeswalker was just a face-up planeswalker, just because it tutors multiple times, it'd probably have to cost more than 3 mana. So this is a way to like hide it on the battlefield until you're ready to defend it, and then you can flip it and keep it protected while you tutor 2 or 3 or 4 times.
Mhm. This does use equal to the number in a, I think, relatively intuitive way and a way that
Yeah,
makes the
yeah,
wizard matter more to the second half of the card.
yeah.
'Cause it's loyalty counters equal to the number of wizards you control.
Yeah, I think this does hit easy to read. I didn't have to reread and recheck anything. So I think it hits the challenge, and I think it hits the bonus points.
Mhm. If you are already familiar with classes and with planeswalkers,
Yeah, yeah,
the easy to read goes way, way higher. And if you
yeah,
aren't,
yeah.
then the easy to read goes way, way lower.
That's true. Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like some of the other classes, it's kind of clear why it's a class because it like gains different permanent abilities as it sticks on the battlefield. Whereas this, like, the classiness is, used more for its mechanics than it is for aligning with the class flavor.
Mhm. And
Uh,
it's almost saga if sagas want permanent
mm,
abilities, they have
hmm
to
hmm
add extra text to get there for a class. Instead, it's spending extra text to give it just a one-time little trigger
Yeah.
instead of a permanent. Our next submission is from Juliet. This is another transforming DFC rather than a modal one. It's Cramped Bookshop, which is a enchantment front, and it transforms into Shadowy Speakeasy, which is a legendary land. Cramped Bookshop is 1 and a blue-black hybrid for
Mm,
a enchantment front uncommon with when your combat begins, discard down to 2 cards, then draw a card. At
mm,
the end of your combat, if you've both drawn and discarded cards this turn equal to the number of cards in your hand, you may exile this front, then
mm.
return it transformed. And then its backside is Shadowy Speakeasy, legendary land, with when this land or another land you control enters, if you control 7 or more lands with different names, spread the news, which is create a 2/1 black and white Inkling Saga creature token with, on the third chapter, each player draws a card.
Whoa. So you've got some like new templating here. You've got when your combat begins at the end of your combat. This is a little different from how we'd normally word this. I think this is still readable though. It slows me down when I read it because I have to like digest that you're trying something new, but I don't think it's hard to
Mhm.
understand.
I have expressed a dissatisfaction with some of the lengthiness
Yeah.
of how Magic pins its timing abilities
Yeah.
in ways that seem, "Oh, well, that has to be that way to enfranchised
Mhm.
players," but I never ever want a new player to read a thing that says, "At the beginning of your end step." Uh,
Yeah.
that I think is one of the ones that I'm most dissatisfied with,
Yeah.
and the length of at the beginning of your upkeep,
Yeah.
when we could just say like, "Hey, at your upkeep," and we just know that that means
Yeah.
when your upkeep happens. And so, we've seen more, like, when you attack
Hmm.
come up as a thing, but because we have this, like, beginning of combat phase, and this is a card for Starcrossed Lovers of New Capenna, it features the spread the news mechanic that I've got as part of the, Obscura kind of Esper
Hmm.
faction there, and that I know that there's going to be a discard and draw card theme in blue black, specifically like if you've both drawn and discarded, this creature has blah. And so I wanted to make sure this happened at the beginning of combat, such that if you had a defender that can attack if you've drawn and discarded, it could get
Oh.
to attack in
Oh,
that
okay.
turn.
Hmm. So the when your combat begins, instead of at the beginning of your,
Mhm.
I think that part's good. You discard down to 2 cards, then draw a card. So no matter how many cards in hand, I'm going down to 1 card, or I'm going down to 3 or 3 or lower cards.
Mhm.
And then at end of combat, so when do I naturally hit? It wasn't obvious to me, on this first read when I normally will get to flip this. So I need to, if I have
See,
3
I
cards in
I
hand, I
mhm.
discard down to 2. So I discard a card and then draw a card. So if I had 3 cards in hand going in, I don't get it, right?
So if you start the turn on 3 cards and you
Yeah.
draw up to 4 in your
Yeah.
draw step, then you will be discarding 2 cards and you'll end up
Drawing 2 cards.
yeah, you'll have drawn 2 cards, your hand will be 3, you'll have discarded 2 cards. But then the
So
next turn, it
yeah.
will sync up. I wrote out I'm like, I should pull up the MSC file because I know I wrote out the math. The key is that you really want some other form of like discard a card,
Yeah.
do blah, because that will let you do it on almost any hand size
Yeah.
rather than needing to like count on this card to eventually like shape your
Mm.
hand into the right size.
Yeah. And then the backside here, this is a land. It doesn't have a mana. It doesn't generate mana,
Mhm.
but it's not your land drop, so maybe that's fine. And then when this or another enters, if you're 7 or more lands with different names, so Feel the Dead style, instead of getting a zombie, I get a delayed 2/1.
You get a 2/1 that
Oh, the 2/1's
kind of
not
exi
delayed. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
the 2/1 exists there, but kind of like a summon creature from the Final Fantasy set, it goes
Oh,
away,
okay, okay.
you know, so you kind of have it it's kind of like a decayed zombie rather than
Oh, okay. Yeah,
a
yeah.
normal one,
Mhm.
but with the, you know, part that the opponent may or may not want each player to draw a card, and you may or may not want each player to draw a card. So you've got some windows there to interact with it. But yeah,
Yeah,
this was in the style of the Ixalan, like, hey, we're
yeah.
gonna flip into one of these broken sort of lands.
Mhm.
In this case, I was like, well, Field of the Dead is one of the like
Cool
modern
broken
versions
lands.
of a really broken
Mhm.
land. And I think it's neat to flip into a land that isn't like, rather than needing to put this on a land that isn't a mana source, like, an enchantment that flips into a land that isn't a mana source but does count your other number of lands
Oh,
is like, you're
okay.
never going mana
Uh,
negative on
yeah,
that,
yeah,
basically.
yeah. I think my instinct is that having mana on this would make it easier to understand what's going on. Like, uh, a legendary land that doesn't tap for mana is like unusual. I don't know.
Mhm.
Maybe we're trying to draw attention to it being unusual, but yeah, I think my quest is hard enough that I'm like, oh, they can't even give me mana on this.
I mean, Field of the Dead is considered, like, one of the strongest cards printed in the modern era, right? Like, it
Yeah,
is
I mean, I do have to like solve a Sudoku to get this land, so
Yeah, that is a good note. I will
hey, I think it is in the tradition of the Ixalan lands, which I think are in the Hall of Fame of least easy to understand Magic cards. um,
It's like a little quest, and in this case, I
yeah,
was trying to
yeah,
capture the idea of you go into this tiny little bookshop, and
love
one
that.
of the reasons it's tiny is because
Mhm.
it's literally just a front for, you know, a Halo bar in the
Yeah,
back.
yeah. I think if we're saying, hey, we want to do more Ixalan cards, but on Capenna, this is exactly that, and this hits that super super well. I maybe I just have the Jack and Jill in the back of my mind of like be critical about confusion, like which is
Sure.
maybe unfair, but
Even if this card is difficult to understand, would you say it is easy to read?
uh, I don't know how to apply those standards differently. I feel like you're trying to swindle me on it, like the cat dog card card you went
It
to bat for.
I designed this card 4 weeks ago,
Okay.
and I worked really hard to try to I was like, "Great. This of all of my iterations is the one that's easy to
Mm,
read." You know,
okay.
this is originally claustrophobic bookshop, and I'm like, That's enough syllables that people are gonna get lost in." So, cramped bookshop.
Yeah.
You know, this was originally setting your maximum hand size and then discarding down to a hand
Oh,
size and, like, different things like that. So this is my and I'm like
okay.
now 4 weeks later, I'm like, "No, I think we are right that this is not." Despite being a famous card on the back,
Yeah.
that still doesn't make it necessarily easy to read.
Maybe my standard, which you can challenge me on, is that like, do I have to reread it to understand how it works more than once, right? And this was like a 3 or 4
Mm.
reader.
This is a fun thing about, what we call lean, unlovely English, which is
Ooh,
to say that I think you are reading the phrase, "The submission is easy to read," in the sense of easy to comprehend, and I am
yeah.
reading it in the sense of it is easy to, like, speak the words You know what I
Oh,
mean? Like,
mm,
it's easy for the listener to hear and go, "I understood that." Like, I captured that sentence even if, like, in play, it would be more difficult, I
yeah.
guess.
Does the reading this take me on a journey that relieves my stress? Like, is that easy to read? Yeah, I mean, this is a cool card, and it, hits the Ixalan mark pretty precisely. I think it's flavorful. You got the set mechanic, and you're using your set mechanic in a way that, like, makes a ton of sense for the flavor. You're
Mhm.
spreading the news with people in this back room, the bookshop that's, like, kind of unassuming that holds a bar. All that is awesome. So, I think it's a great
Just
card.
still needs some work on the
Yeah,
equal to the number part, maybe led
yeah,
us down a rabbit hole that it's hard to
yeah,
get out
yeah,
of.
yeah, yeah. All right, our next card from I'm just negative Nancy today because this easy to read thing. It's really turned me into a jerk on all these cards. I'm like, oh, this needs to be simpler. I gotta
You
chill
know,
out.
fun thing, so in the last few days, I have started reading War and Peace,
Okay.
the actual, like, Tolstoy novel.
Hmm.
The text here, War and Peace, is in reference to the card Sword of War and Peace,
Hmm.
which features equal to the number,
Hmm.
on it. But War and Peace is surprisingly easy to read.
Oh.
I I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to most people because it is hard to understand what you should care about,
Oh.
but I am, like, blitzing my way through it compared to I'm also have been trying to read, Notre Dame de Paris, AKA the Hunchback of
Oh.
Notre Dame,
Okay.
and I am, like, bouncing, like, trying to get through that again and again and again and making no progress because I can't like, the reading part is difficult. War and Peace, surprisingly easy to read, just very,
Hey,
very long.
there we go. War and Peace, the card could be submitted. There we go. Uh, Alrighty. Our next card up is from BT Basemat. On the front, it's nature, which is a land, and on the back is nurture, which is an enchantment. So on the front here, nature, this is a kindred land incarnation, and it has tap, add X mana in any combination of colors where X is equal to the number of incarnations you control, and
Mm.
then tap, discard a card, transform nature. On the back here, nurture, and this is modal, so you could go straight to nurture. Nurture is 1 and a blue for an enchantment. The next time you would draw a card during your turn, instead draw 2 cards, then transform nature.
Then transform nurture back into
Sorry.
nature.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can play this for 1 in a blue to ramp yourself, but only if you have incarnations to make nature's side have a,
Yeah.
like, functional mana ability.
Hmm. Equal the number of changelings you control.
One fun thing about incarnations in particular are or would be the ability to evoke, especially the, Modern Horizons 2 cycle of evoke incarnations, the Fury, Grief, Solitude, Subtlety, Endurance
Okay.
ones,
Hmm.
such that you could evoke out an Endurance, and then while it's on the battlefield before it's been sacrificed to the evoke trigger, tap this to add some additional mana. Off the top of my
Yeah.
head, I couldn't tell you what the lowest mana value, incarnation is.
Probably 4. I don't know. Yeah, I guess the incarnations, there are a couple different incarnations. There were some really old ones. I think the famous one is Anger, which is the one where if it's in your graveyard, you kind of give things haste.
Mhm,
But then Lorwyn had a bunch of them. Modern Horizons had a bunch of them. New Lorwyn has a whole new double color cycle of them,
mhm.
and getting lots of different colors of mana seems especially fitting for the new Lorwyn ones.
Yeah, yeah, it looks like Endurance and Idris, Soul of the TARDIS, are the 2 3 mana,
Hell yeah.
incarnations. Idris kind of standing out from all of the others, which are, just a particular
Hmm.
name of an ideal.
We got to get one of the Who fans on here to explain why Idris is an incarnation. All right. So the backside, this is perhaps some technology here. So the next time you would draw a card during your turn, blah, blah, blah. In this case, draw 2 cards, then transform nurture. So it's sort of like this is like a cantrip that transforms, but only the next time you would draw a card. There's something in this technology here. I'm not sure what to make of it.
Yeah, so you can keep turning a card from your hand by tapping and discarding a card to transform nature into
Yeah.
nurture.
Mhm.
And so nurture is tapped, and when you draw a card, you can kind of reap an extra card
Mhm.
out of it that you can then spend. So you can do kind of a discard a card, draw a card each turn cycle with this.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just like a looter in aspect, but with some kind of edge case and the ability to start the cycle drawing an extra. Like you can
Yeah.
start the cycle by discard then draw or by draw then discard.
Yeah, it's like a little bit slow draw because you have to wait for your next draw. If it's your natural, draw for turn, that is. If you don't have other sources of card draw, you discard a card, transform this thing, and then you have to wait until next turn, and then your next draw step draw turns into a double draw, so you get your card back. That kind of delayed draw is maybe what's kind of fascinating to me. It's like a different way of doing the like kind of eh, when they started doing cantrips in Magic and like Ice Age or alliances or whatever, they
Mhm,
instead of just saying like tap target creature, draw a card, it would say like tap target creature, draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. And this feels like similar, a different way of wording that technology that might be easier to read, easier to understand.
mhm,
Instead of remembering on my opponent's turn I should draw a card, I just look at this permanent on the battlefield and like, oh, I'm drawing for turn. Oh, when I draw, I do this. Okay, I draw an extra card, blah, blah, blah. If you needed like delayed draw for some reason, you want to have like, instead of like double spell, you want like whenever you draw your second card kind of triggers. Having a couple of these kinds of cards might be pretty good.
mhm. Folks who mostly only play in the modern era might know this kind of slow trip from Mishra's Bauble, I think is kind of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the probably particularly played one where you're drawing at the beginning of the I do like pairing effect to when it is otherwise happening
Yeah.
as
That's
a
a good
nice
way of putting it.
aspect.
Yeah.
It is neat that after the first time you're doing this, the discard and draw can both be happening, like, right next to each other, that you can just do this
Hmm.
in your like, before your draw step, kind of,
Hmm.
and then it's like, "Okay, this is tapped," and then it'll untap during my next turn, and then I'll go untap, tap this to transform it, and then draw a card, and then I transform this back, assuming that I have enough cards in hand to that I'm not casting all those things for spells and then needing to wait to
Hmm.
have something to fuel. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the plan A seems to be play nurture first. It flips into a land. Using this as my land drop is pretty tough because having incarnations in play, or at least to me, feels kind of hard.
Mhm. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. It taps for a man. It is an incarnation.
Oh,
So we play with kindred cards so rarely that I think Tim
whoa.
and I both
Yeah.
missed that this is a 5 color
Five
land
color
just
land. Holy cow.
on its
Yeah.
own.
Huh.
Huh. Now that changes everything.
$25 card immediately.
Yeah, and that you would wanna play with, I do this, and then I put a fury into play, and now I can tap for 2 mana of any color
Yeah. Yeah.
for a low, low price.
Huh. All right. Well, that certainly
We've
changes it around a lot.
Yeah, yeah, equal to the number. That's a great, fascinating card,
Yeah.
almost certainly very broken, but at the same
Mm.
time, print this and maybe people start playing Legacy again, like
Mm.
because here we've got a like a slow recurring card filter blue option
Yeah.
and a fast mana option all at once. Yeah.
Yeah, already.
This for
Huh.
some players, this is gonna be everything that they've ever wanted. Our next submission is from Larcent. It's a sorcery named Study the Sigils, or an artifact named Tome of Sealed Wonders. This appears to be a transforming DFC. Study the Sigils is 2 blue and a blue for an uncommon sorcery with draw cards equal to the number of sorcery and instant cards in your graveyard.
Hmm.
And an ability called Transcribe for 1 and a red. As this spell resolves, you may pay its transcribe cost. If you do, put it on the battlefield transformed instead of in your graveyard. So
Hmm.
you'd basically be paying 3 blue, blue, red. So 6 mana there for that. And what you'd get is a artifact named Tome of Sealed Wonders for a red mana, and tap this. Exile a top card of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. You must still pay any costs.
Mhm.
And Magecraft, when you cast or copy a sorcery or instant spell, untap Tome of Sealed
Mm.
Wonders.
That's cool. I have this 4 mana, draw cards equal a number of instant and sorceries in your graveyard, which feels like a card that I can build around. This is not a naturally like super strong card, but certainly one that like, lights up on fire once I build around it.
Mhm.
If I go up to 6 mana, just like fully take the turn off, I get this source of, 1 or 2 or 3 extra cards to choose from every turn, which is quite sick.
Yeah, yeah. Also the idea of casting more of like more cards with transcribe,
Hmm.
and you're getting your Magecraft triggers, and or if you're in a space where you're copying a lot of things, I cast a spell and I'm trying to think through if I know for sure if I copy a spell with transcribe that I've paid the transcribe cost for, would it create two versions of the backside? Would I get the artifact and a token artifact copy of it?
Oh, I there was like an update to the copy rules that
Mhm.
and how it relates to double-sided cards, but I don't quite know it, so I'd have to look that one up.
If it was kicker, when you copy a kicked spell, the copy is kicked too.
Yeah,
If a
yeah.
kicked spell is copy, the copy is also kicked.
Mhm, mhm.
What you might need to do is just pay the transcribe a second time, and you would get a second copy of it, because transformations of copies do have
Mm.
copies do now have a backside because of the
Yeah.
incubate rules change. So I think that would work.
I don't know how much of a patch the ability for copies of permanents to become tokens is. Like, I don't know if it's just you can make a token that if you make a copy of something of a permanent,
Mhm.
or if like you copy everything about the card, including yeah, this would probably require some sort of clarification, I think. Or maybe you're right. Maybe it just works 100% as is.
But I do think clarifying, does it just work? Does it just not work?
Yeah.
Do you need to pay the transcribe once or twice to get 1 or
Yeah.
2 copies if you're copying the sorcery part?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess this would be an overall question with transcribe.
Mhm. We're thinking about copying instants and sorceries because
Yeah.
this also
Yeah.
has Magecraft on
Yeah.
it.
It has Magecraft on it. Yeah.
I think this is a fun flavor for kind of a Strixhaven-y card here. The idea of, here's this weird book, I'm gonna try to study the sigils, and then once I finally have it unlocked, it's gonna be this recurring source of inspiration. Like, that's straight out of all sorts of different types of, fantastic fiction.
Yeah. I really wouldn't want to play this unless I was the heavy instant sorcery deck. So this is like this card is kind of interesting because it puts the ability to play the tome.
Mhm.
The tome would be good in almost any deck. It puts the ability to play the tome behind the lock of like your deck better be about instant and sorcery cards or you better be desperate for this tome, which I think is cool.
It's also interesting that what it is effectively giving you with these impulses and then being able to untap to impulse again
Yeah.
on the backside is card advantage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what the front is giving you is card draw. So if you have drawn 3 or 4 or 5 cards from the Study the Sigils, draw
Hmm.
cards equal to the number of sorcery and instant cards in your graveyard,
Mm-hmm.
is drawing your 5th through 8th card particularly helpful after you've drawn your
Yeah.
first 4 extra
Hmm.
cards.
Yeah. I'm just expecting that I'm not necessarily trying to draw 5 with the front. I just have
Mhm.
to draw 2, like,
Sure.
uh, to not feel bad. So, yeah, I think you're probably right overall if you're doing that. Like all your cards cost 1 except for like a couple of them, and you're gripping 7 off the top. Why do you need to impulse draw? I think that's a valid thing to think through. But that's not the way that a Izzet Mage is thinking. The Izzet Mage is just like more, more. I need more.
Mhm. And, if you are in Commander or something like that, you're paying 6 mana for a card draw spell, like, you're at that point that you have a bunch of mana and you're drawing a bunch of cards and, like, yeah, I wanna keep drawing more cards so I can turn them into more just
Hmm.
more things, period. Like, hey, at a certain point in some formats and in some decks, yeah, drawing my 5th through 8th card, which can then turn into my 15 cards or whatever, is
Yeah,
actually particularly useful.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I like this card a lot, and I think transcribe you could get 10 cards out of that for sure.
Yeah.
It,
And, this has equal to the number. Do you think
mhm.
this is easy to read?
Uh, I would say yeah. After that first read, I knew all the components of the card. I'm going off my reread rule.
Mhm. If your brain is good at shortcutting magic rules text into, like, practical
Yeah.
things, like exile a top card of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play that card. You must still pay any costs. For most of us, that kind of just shortcuts to, hey, I know that operation. I can bundle that operation. When you cast a or copy a sorcerer instance spell, untaps to like, yeah, I can visualize this in my head as like this would take 2 symbols to to say the whole thing if we had shorthand. And I think that sort of easily shorthanded in the brain, helps something be easier to read.
Yeah. There's one like hidden thing in this that I don't know if it was just how Larson was feeling that day, but in terms of easy to read, for some reason this says like draw cards equal number of sorcerer or instant. Whenever you cast a sorcery or instant, it's always written the other way. Like there's no magic card that says the text sorcery or instant on it. It's always instant or
Mm.
sorcery. I don't know how that happened on this card.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said that sorceries are faster than instants.
Oh, so they get in line faster? Yeah.
Instant is alphabetically before sorcery. I'd
Yeah,
be curious what the kind of meaning for one or the other is. But yeah, fun card. Thanks for the submission, Larson.
yeah, great one. Next up from Auxiliary Otter, we've got Troubled Sanctuary, which is a land, and Halcyon Sanctuary, which is also a land. Troubled Sanctuary has tap, add colorless, and is cycling for 1 and a white. And then the backside, this land enters tapped and adds white.
Yeah.
So you either get an untapped colorless source or a tapped white source. And then cycling. It has cycling on one side, but it sort of has cycling on both sides in a way.
Yeah. So this is slightly more expensive than the average land that taps for a single color of mana and has cycling, right? Like if this was just this land enters tapped, tap, add white, and cycling, we can get that for a single white mana.
Yeah, the good ones are like that.
Instead, we have cycling for 1 and a white, but we have the option, kind of the pathways option of a tapped white source or an
Mhm.
untapped colorless source.
Yeah, we did get like the deserts were 2 mana to cycle away and they entered tapped. Like the colorful deserts from Amonkhet, I'm assuming.
Mhm.
I guess this is like your Eldrazi enabler or colorless mana enabler. I guess maybe just in a regular draft deck, this is still probably acceptable.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
I guess I would probably just play this in any deck.
I'm trying to think of how I might word this if I wanted to make it a single-faced card.
Like have a tracking counter on it or something.
Yeah. Tap, add, colorless. You may have it enter tapped if you do put a plains counter on it,
Yeah.
or it becomes a plains in perpetuity.
There's a card, Crumbling Vestige, which
Sure, sure.
always enters tapped. It's not quite the same thing as this, but it's kind of similar. Crumbling Vestige enters tapped, and then when it enters, add 1 mana of any color, and then it taps for colorless. You could do the reverse, right? When this enters, add a white. But you'd need a lot of text to do that. That's like a 4-liner kind of thing with the cycling.
Mhm,
So I think double face is kind of nice here, especially if you're also going to like try to enrich the two sides with different, like, oh, these are two time periods. These are two,
mhm.
oh, if we built this city or we didn't build this city here, alternate reality kind of things. Like the double face does afford you some cool stuff.
Absolutely. The art in, like, hey, the troubled sanctuary that you can kinda not only does it only tap for colors, but you can get rid of it, putting the cycling on that part, like,
Yeah.
makes there be some story and flavor to the
Mm.
fairly simple mechanical ability.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's when you want to do this, is when you have like a cool flavor hook to use. But this is good.
And I think this is a great I don't know, I always like to applaud when somebody decides to leave one of the bonus points aside to
Yeah.
make a better design.
Yeah. Love it. Great submission.
Our next submission is from Plumtree Chloe. It is a enchantment named Study the Narrative, and this is a modal DFC,
Hmm.
with the backside being a sorcery named Rewrite the Ending.
Hmm.
So, Study the Narrative is 1 and a blue for an uncommon enchantment with when this enchantment enters and at the beginning of your upkeep, scry 2. And then you can spend a red mana to return this enchantment to your hand. And then the backside of Study the Narrative is Rewrite the Ending for 4 and a red. We have a sorcery with exile any number of cards from the top of your library. Rewrite the Ending deals damage to each creature equal to the number of cards exiled this way.
Hmm.
We got a flavor text. Guff knew the Phyrexians would win, but he still joined the war effort. And then his final act was to give the 9 Titans a chance at victory.
Guff is like a meta character in the story. Oh, what is the exact detail? He definitely breaks wall a bunch of times in whatever book he's in.
Hmm.
Basically, like engages with the fact that this is a story and he like erases some of the things that the Phyrexian did.
That's pretty cool. I knew the name, but yeah, Commodore Guff and then Guff rewrites history from Commander Masters.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Fascinating. And he's got a big bushy red beard. Yeah,
yeah.
this is the guy.
Plumtree went over the top and provided some sweet MS Paint art for both halves of their card.
Absolutely love it. How
Yeah,
how do you feel about just 1 and a blue when this enters and then each turn in
yeah.
perpetuity scry 2?
That's a good card. I think I would be up for playing just that in most cases.
Mhm.
In draft, yeah, I'd be happy scry 2ing every turn. Yeah.
You know the wild thing about this though? So it being scry instead of surveil, I think is especially relevant because you can scry cards to the bottom of your library, which
Hmm.
usually is kind of like that's mostly worse than surveil because like the graveyard is a resource.
Yeah.
But specifically using rewrite the ending, I
Yeah.
can in my first few turns scry relevant cards to the bottom of my library in like a doomsday specific order.
Yeah.
Uh, doomsday being a card where you make your library just five cards. And then I can rewrite the ending down to a Thassa's Oracle or whatever. I can exile all sorts of cards. I can exile 59 cards if I
Yeah.
want or need to,
Yeah. To get those back. Yeah.
and wipe the board and be set up for a pivotal conclusion. Or if you don't have like a Thassa's Oracle sort of thing going on,
Yeah.
you can still say, "Hey, I set up as good as I can, plus whatever other fluff. I'm gonna cut half my deck off and get closer to decking out. But I'm going to, you know, have these critical cards at the end of the game."
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good insight. The red side is kind of surprising. So exile any number of cards from the top of your library.
Mhm.
Most of the ways that I think of that people use for like Thassa's Oracle, if you have an empty library, blah, 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 are really old cards. So they're sort of like demonic consultation. You can name a card and then like exile until you hit it. So you name a card that you don't have in your deck to just blow away your whole library. Or Doomsday, like you said, exile everything but five. We haven't really seen a lot of like, if you would like to, feel free to have empty library cards, which maybe is kind of cool to give to Guff. Guff is meant to be this weird sort of anachronistic, rule breaking guy. I don't know that I can think through all of the ramifications of giving people access to just empty your library if you feel like it card,
Yeah.
but it's certainly cool, certainly distinct, and people will want to do it.
In this case, you're paying kind of 5 or 6 mana for
Yeah.
this. 6 of your returning it
Hmm.
to your hand to then cast this,
Hmm.
which is at least slower than, is it Hermit Druid?
Yeah.
There's a classic legacy one that is mostly used just to put everything into your graveyard,
Yeah, that's
or
another good example. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, this is funny because I think you're getting like a solid red wrath,
Mhm,
because this is, you could just exile like 8 cards off your library and deal 8 to everything. I don't know. It's just strange for red to have like Wrath of God,
mhm.
but you just lose some cards off the top of your library.
I was pulling up other kind of deal a bunch of damage to each creature. The one
Mhm.
that comes to mind is Blasphemous
Yeah,
Act,
yeah,
dealing 13 to everything, but of course that's very expensive depending on the number of creatures on the battlefield. And most of the others are conditional in some ways. So
yeah.
like Spiteful Banditry, that's X red and red dealing damage to each creature. But
Mhm.
you do need to have the mana to like
Yeah,
scale equal to the sort of stuff. Calamitous Cave-in is equal to the number of caves you control. So you gotta you need to
yeah,
like have these things, or some of them are chain reaction. The number of creatures on the battlefield
yeah.
will sequence. The deal 40.
Uh,
Uh, maybe you just want to play this with Stuffy Doll
yeah,
instead of Thassa's Oracle. And-
yeah.
yeah.
I overall am really high on this card. It's just the slightly uneasy about both the free empty library and the 5 mana Wrath of God in red.
Okay, here's the dream. You have Swans of Bryn Argle in play,
Hmm.
and then you cast Rewrite the Ending, exiling 25 cards from your library, dealing 25 damage to each creature on the battlefield,
Mhm.
and then drawing 25 cards because Swans of Bryn Argle turns damage into cards. So you can
Oh,
say,
there you
hey, for
go.
5 mana, I wrathed everything but my creature, and I drew 25 cards in,
Mhm.
in the process.
Mhm.
Go, as we say.
Yeah, the Stuffy Doll Boros Reckoner was another one. Cards where I could turn damage to my own creatures into something really good. The Swans.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a cool card. I like this. Is it easy to write? I would say I
Y-
understood the whole card the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. And like there's an intuitive connection between the two. I kind of wish Rewrite the Ending was, like, contingent on Study the Narrative first.
Mm,
You know, like, if instead of being modal, this was somehow like a
yeah,
transforming or like a sacrifice clause or something like that,
yeah,
so that we could then, like, tuck a window of, being, a permanent on the battlefield and vulnerable to removal in that way sort of aspect.
yeah. In terms of easy to read, I think this gets a thumbs up for me. This
Mhm.
does maybe fail, or not fail, but this does hit the DFC issue of my opponent plays the blue side. I'm gonna really need you to take that out of his sleeve so I can read that backside real quick. Like,
Sure, sure.
I w
Mhm.
the innocence of the friend side compared to the insane cosmic power of the backside is like, yeah, let me see that backside. And it's,
Mhm.
can they summarize it? Because that's the other kind of test of like a DFC. Can they just tell me exactly what's on the backside without having to pull it out of the sleeve and hand it over and blah 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 blah? Actually, probably yeah. Like I feel like I could believe. Well, I might not believe because it'd be such a crazy powerful effect. But I, uh, gonna do what? Other than that, I think yeah, a person could have this blue permanent on the battlefield, be asked what the back does, and describe what the back does accurately. Um, yeah. So maybe, yeah, maybe I'll give a full thumbs up to the easy to read.
Just because I think this is, like, an interesting sort of design note to extrapolate out from, I wanna,
Yeah.
like, lean even closer to thinking about this card and thinking about the pay a red, return this enchantment to your hand
Hmm.
ability,
Okay.
and by dint of this challenge, we're seeing more double-faced cards and seeing non-creature double-faced cards, which are
Hmm.
kind of a subset there, but seeing double-faced cards that are on the simpler side,
Hmm.
on the stuff on both sides, and so it kind of raises a question of, do you want a double-faced card where you really could fit all of the text on the front side?
Oh,
Return this enchantment to your hand is a whole lot of letters that
yeah.
could then be replaced with, uh, 4 red and a red,
Sacrifice
exile any
this.
number of cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, sort of thing. And or, well, do we want double-faced cards that have less text on both sides, but
Hmm.
then those cards could be single-faced cards? Or do we want double-faced cards where you really couldn't make it a single-faced card,
It's very funny.
but that
So
means you have more text on both sides, which means there's
yeah,
more need to, like, pull it out and reread the backside and, like,
yeah. Our
yeah.
our DFC is doomed to fail my test of like, can someone explain the back of this card? Yeah, very funny. That's a good point.
Mhm.
Yeah, some of these we've seen. This is like our third blue enchantment that does like a tiny thing. Well, the first one,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, the first one
we've
scryed 2
mhm,
once. We had the
mhm.
planeswalker class that just made a little guy, and then
The bookshop, you're
I guess the bookshop.
effectively
Yeah,
just looting, you're
yeah,
discarding and drawing. Mhm.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nurture just turns, a single draw into a
That's
2
true.
draw.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Somehow blue is against all odds the shortcut to easy to read cards.
Mhm. It helps that Scry no longer requires reminder text. I think that helps a lot.
All right. Next up from Church Wizard, who I think submitted a long time was submitting cards for a while. They're a familiar name, but they haven't been around in a while. So welcome back, Church
Pew,
Wizard.
pew, pew,
Pew, pew, pew, pew, pew.
pew.
Bonus. Pew,
New
pew, pew,
or
pew, pew. Returning.
returning
Yeah.
submitter.
Returning submitter. Pew, pew, pew. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for sending us a card. This card is Quick Fix on the front, which is a sorcery, and then Speedy Racer on the back, which is a vehicle. Speedy Racer is not castable, so you're going to have to find a way to flip. Quick Fix is a red mana. Start your engines, and then exile the top card of your library. You may play that card. If you don't, Quick Fix deals 1 damage to each player. When this card is exiled, if its jumpstart cost was paid, put it on the battlefield transformed, and it has jumpstart. Jumpstart is like flashback, but you have to also discard a card.
Mhm, mhm.
And then the backside is a vehicle. It has trample and haste, crew 2, and then max speed. This vehicle is an artifact creature. So it's a 4/3. If you have max speed, it's just a 4/3 trample haste. If you don't have max speed, it's a 4/3 trample haste vehicle that you have to crew yourself.
And start your engines, of course, is if you have no speed, it starts at 1. It
Mhm.
increases once on each of your turns when an opponent loses life. Max speed is 4.
So the main clause of the friend, it has like transformy stuff, start your engines, but the main thing the friend does is exile the top card. You could play it this turn. If you don't, deal 1 to each player. The first read on that for me was like, well, that secondary mode kind of stinks, right? Like 1 to each player. Like even if it was 1 to each opponent, I wouldn't want to do that. Like that's too minor.
Mhm.
But specifically with start your engines, you can say like, well, I don't really need that land off the top. I'm going to bump up my speed by 1. Because like sometimes getting from 3 to 4 speed is a little bit tough. And quick fix here can get you 1 speed no matter what.
Mhm. And so then you can discard to recast this from the jumpstart side.
Hmm.
And this is again one of those things that someone else would clarify the rules text for. Do the sorcery components before putting it on the
Oh,
battlefield
that's an interesting
transformed?
thing.
Or do you just
When this card is
yeah.
exiled, I think Jumpstart, if Jumpstart's like flashback, it exiles as it resolves. So you would exile it after dealing your 1 damage or whatever.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Unless Jumpstart is weird, which I
Mhm.
hope it isn't.
I always think of Jumpstart, it is, many things, but I think of it as retrace, but you're trading the ability to discard any land, you're gaining the ability to discard any card instead of discarding a land, and you're losing the keep doing it forever.
Forever. Yeah. Ravens criming someone into oblivion.
So yeah, then exile this card. So I think you get to quick fix again and then put this onto the battlefield. And then if someone does kill your speedy racer, this hypothetically is going back into your graveyard so you can jumpstart again.
That's interesting. Yeah, that does seem true. I guess the like the text or the expanded rules on Jumpstart is spell cast using Jumpstart will always be exiled afterward, whether it resolves, is countered, or leaves the stack in some other way. Maybe this text needs to say like when this card is exiled, blah 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 blah, put on the battlefield transformed instead to say, hey, stop exiling, stop,
Mm.
don't exile, forget about exiling.
Or
Uh,
just put on the battlefield from exile.
oh yeah, that would also be cool. This is super weird, but the text doesn't quite like stop the exile from happening.
And maybe it's just like understood that like, hey, you're putting on the battlefield wherever it is, you're it
Yeah,
since it is being exiled
yeah,
to go
yeah,
do
yeah.
that.
All
Funny,
right, so
funky.
I think this is not quite going to give me the easy to read thing because I did have to think a little bit about like I did have to get some rereads going. It's pretty close though, like the different pieces, and I think even if it's not easy to read, I think this is quite nice to play. I'm
Mm,
very much in
mhm,
favor of this card. This is something that if I have a max speed deck, I'm very happy to draft 1 or 2 copies of this quick fix. This allows me to get from 2 to 3, 3 to 4. The difference between like exiling the top card and drawing a card, I'm risking a little bit. I'm playing a little bit red. I might exile something off the top that's 6 mana and I can't cast it. So I'm like in a little bit of danger of not getting my card back when I need it. But in exchange, I'm really making my start your engines more consistent, which I love.
mhm. I'm happy to read this card and like you say, very happy to play this card. I think the fact that there's multiple keywords that we needed to look up makes it, you know,
Yeah.
easier to literally read. In
Yeah.
in terms of read aloud, you only have to read start your engines, but you do need to think through or look up what start your engines and the nuances of Jumpstart's exile windows and things like that.
Yeah. I think Jumpstart, unless it's like, we might imagine a second racing set where Jumpstart is in there. Jumpstart's a very flavorful
Mhm,
thing to put in a racing set.
mhm.
So, maybe that cost is being paid by the set rather than by this individual card. But if this is like in the Modern Horizons zone or whatever, Jumpstart is definitely like a comprehension cost, like remembering a mechanic that's on like, I would say no famous cards. I don't know. Are there famous jumpstart cards?
I'm trying to the damage one isn't. I think maximize altitude, maximize velocity. Eh, no, the commons don't count as famous. There's the card draw one, radical idea. I
Mhm.
don't think any of those
Yeah.
count.
Th- This is a thing that I've thought about for a while. What are the like 500 most famous Magic cards that we don't have to read? And
Mhm.
what's the borderline? What's like the 400th place on that? We need like a like a community poll or whatever to just go through each pairing of cards. Which card is more famous? Which card did you know?
Sure.
So I know does any jumpstart card meet that? Maybe not. Does flashback need that? Do we have to reread flashback? No, actually, people will know flashback. There's a couple of famous ones.
I I mean, here's a question, Tim. How about the card Flash?
Oh, is Flash in the top 500? I would say Flash is not in the top 500. Not to say that's
Mhm.
not a famous card in some circles.
I mean, like, I do think we would need to reread it because it's like, okay, wait, can I when do I spend can I no one ever pays the mana to keep the creature on, but if you did, what would could you recite the card True Name Nemesis?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it's like it enters the battlefield or as this enters the battlefield. Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. Someone built that
Interesting.
web app for me where you could just look at two cards and say which one's more famous.
Mhm.
And then
Which
after we have enough data, we'll know what the famous cards are.
which one vapes, but instead it's, which one could you play a textless version of and not have any problem on either side of the battlefield?
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know. We're up to like I don't know 25,000 cards or something. So 500 is like a pretty severe cut.
Yeah. And
Um,
I wonder what the, like, I where is there a steep drop off? You know what I
mm,
mean?
hmm
Like, there's
hmm
lots and obviously, most of the vanilla creatures are not necessarily famous, but are very easy to, like,
Yeah.
you know, uh,
What vanillas make the cut?
mhm.
Grizzly bears makes the cut, and maybe gray ogre.
Is it what is it Silvermane Lion? I don't know. It's the I would recognize the art. I know it's the corset one in a white grizzly bear that's a
Oh, okay.
cat, you
Yeah.
know?
Someone build this web app for me. I'll give you a role in the Discord. I don't know.
Uh-huh,
I don't have any prizes to give you.
uh-huh.
All right. One more check on Quick Fix Speedy Racer here. Is this card too good? Not saying it is, but just a quick check here. I pay a red mana. I get max speed. I get a speed bump. I jumpstart it. I get another speed bump, and then I have like my little hasty blaster because I hit once with a creature and I have max speed.
I have a 4/3 trample haste that I can effectively recast almost every turn. Like, I can turn any, like, lands I draw or anything into one of these
I can
if
unearth
it's
this
foiled.
forever, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. It is hard to say that a card is too good in the modern era because,
Yeah.
like, well, you
It's an
probably
uncommon.
can't do this turn 1 because you do need
Yeah.
to take the turns to build up to the speed. I do think you could probably play this in many standard formats, and in some it would be obnoxious, and in some it would
Hmm.
be very, very fringe.
Yeah.
I think I would be a little hesitant about if this turns out to be just, like, very unfun to face against in, like, a limited environment. You
Yeah.
know,
That's
"Oh, my opponent has 2 speedy racers, and I've none of my cards deal with them in a way that actually stops anything." Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. If my opponent has a speedy racer, I am not expecting to win that game in limited.
Mhm.
I don't know if maybe it's just like an oversight. Maybe this could have had, the like disturb. Those were the creatures that like you cast a second time out of the battlefield. Then the backside, when that died, it exiled. Like maybe this was
Mhm.
just missing that accidentally. maybe the ability to re-speedy racer every turn was not really considered, but it feels a little backbreaking and limited at least.
I don't know that it's intuitive before play that when it goes to the graveyard, it goes to the graveyard as a quick fix rather than as
Yeah,
a
yeah,
speedy racer. If it went to the graveyard as a speedy racer, then the card is perfectly fine. You know,
yeah.
it's good at its niche, but it's nothing to really worry about.
And like a different like digital only game, like this goes to the graveyard as the speedy racer. It no longer has that front face, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Very cool card though. Great to have you back.
Our next submission is from Kieran. It is a sorcery named Call the Boys and an instant named Wah! This card is written entirely in the vernacular of the orcs from the Warhammer universe. I believe both 40K and fantasy and the various other, I think Blood Bowl. There's a lot of these. Anyways, I'm just gonna read it in English, but the listener can read it in in
Hmm.
orc voice if they choose to check out the card in our Discord.
Yeah.
So this is called The Boys. It's 3 and a green for a sorcery with create a bunch of 1/1 red orc creatures with creature thingies, which I think is creature tokens, with trample equal to the number of not thingy, not land stuff you have. So, uh, non-token, non-land, permanents you
That's
control?
how I would translate that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the number of non-token, non-land permanents you have, create that many
Oh.
1/1 red orc tokens with trample.
Yeah.
And then its backside has the type now now, which is presumably an instant. So for 2 and a red, it's a trumpet blast. Creatures you
Yeah.
control get +2/+0 until the end of turn. And the wah is like that's a famous thing in I think all of the Warhammers. That's their big like
Yeah. Yeah.
war cry that is magical.
Ah, yeah.
Paint things red, they go faster.
Yeah. 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 This is funny. This is another one that maybe like mono white borders that is like trying to defy the easy to read. Because it's like create with a K. Creature is spelt kind of like sort of phonetically, tramplin,
Mhm,
non thingy, D end a da turn.
mhm.
Yeah.
And so this does feel this feels like if they made a modal DFC in, like, I don't know, Onslaught era or before,
Hmm.
where like, "Wow, this card can be either tokens or a trumpet blast. We better not" it can make 1/1, orcs with trample equal to the number of just basically non-token creatures you control for 4 mana. I think the rate there is very safe, especially because I mean, the trample matters more if you are able to
Pump it. Yeah.
trumpet blast
Yeah.
them, and it the second one of these doesn't build on the first as far as casting the sorcery
Yeah.
side, but
Yeah.
it does build on the first in terms of casting the other half.
Hmm.
I kinda wish this was mm, the mechanic from Amonkhet that uses the horizontal frame that then they said,
Yeah.
"Hey, when
Aftermath.
we
Yeah.
bring this back, it'll be" yeah, Aftermath.
Mhm.
"When we bring it back, we'll use the normal split
Whew.
card frame."
Yeah. This would be
Um,
good if it had that for sure.
I think that's the thing that I'm, like, wishing this had, if that makes sense?
Hmm. Mm, I'm pretty happy with this card. Maybe it's 1 mana expensive on the front, but overall, I like the option. Like the Trumpet Blast with a buyout to get like 2 or 3 1/1s. That solves all the problems with Trumpet Blast that I have. I don't know.
I guess I'm anticipating that I'm casting this 4 mana sorcery, and some amount of the time I'm getting a single
Yeah.
1/1 with
Yeah.
trample
That's fair.
sort of idea.
Yeah. I guess I'm glass half full, you're glass half empty on depending on which side of the card you start on.
Specifically, if we are reading, because it says creature thingies,
Yeah.
where we would read token. So not thingy, not land. I'm doing non-token,
Yeah.
non-land. If this saw tokens, then you play something that makes 2 tokens on turn 2 and or something that makes 3 tokens on turn 3. You play this out and you're getting a whole bunch. Since
Mhm.
you have to have like hard cast creatures basically on the battlefield, I'm not expecting to have more than 2 of those, if that,
Yeah, that's
necessarily
fair.
on turn 4.
Yeah. I guess if this is Warhammer, it's probably more equipment, more vehicles than normal, or at least the
Sure.
orcs. So the artifact stuff is maybe more relevant here than it would be in a normal Gruul deck.
Mhm.
I don't know. I guess I'm just a little bit more optimistic about it. It
And
is kind of funny to make a bunch of 1/1s that look like the Hulk, except meaner looking. Um, 1/1 is not where I'd put the Warhammer orcs for sure.
mhm.
Those are in the kind of, I would say, the Minotaur zone of it has to have at least 5 stat points to be an orc, a Warhammer orc.
Sure. I am very, very only loosely familiar with 40K
Yeah,
as a
fair.
property,
Me
but
too.
I've a decent amount of experience with the like Warhammer Fantasy side of
Hmm.
things and the like interesting or curious kind of power scaling relationship between the
Yeah,
Skaven, the orcs, and the dwarves, where
yeah.
like it might take 20 Skaven to take on 1 orc, but
Hmm.
they can bring 20 Skaven to the battle because they're rats.
Yeah.
Uh, and then like, okay, you have a bunch of big orcs, but then like the tiny old longbeard dwarves are able to be like, but I'm equal to 3 orcs. And so then you're like
Hmm.
trying to scale these
Yeah.
very brute force factions against one another.
Yeah, yeah. I like this card a lot. You're a little more skeptical, but I'm in
I
favor.
I I do think the modal nature is like a useful thing.
Mhm.
A given card can be worse if you do have the option of it just being a totally different
Yeah,
card. Like that's a pretty cool thing.
yeah. Alrighty, that's our first half. I'm glad we decided to split this up ahead of time because we're pretty deep in an episode. Hopefully, everyone's happy with the amount of content they're getting this week. Do you have any favorites?
If I knew more languages.
Oh my god. Uh,
The simplicity of things, I think Auxiliary Otter's submission, the Troubled Sanctuary,
hmm,
colorless land with
mhm,
cycling into the enters tapped land that taps for white mana into the
mhm,
Halcyon Sanctuary. I think the ease of which that tells a story using the 2 halves of the card while being exceptionally easy to read, like,
mhm,
I think that's neat, and I think I even prefer it over many of the, like, pathway style DFC lands as far
mhm,
as, like, being something that I understand the 2 halves and the relationship that they have towards one another and towards the mechanics. Like, "Hey, if you work for it, if this enters tapped, it's
hmm,
our Halcyon Sanctuary. If you
mhm.
are using it, but with the,
Yeah.
necessary fact that you might have to throw it away, that's our Troubled Sanctuary."
Or maybe like conveying the effort. Like it's sort of like it's kind of an empty field versus like a built up whatever. Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah. That's a nice one. Um, hmm. I think in terms of like simple cards that I could see printing and that would be a good fit, I'd have to go Crypt Rats, look for an opening, which is like scry a bunch of times and then tap a bunch of guys. That feels
mhm.
really plausible. But I feel like the Guff card actually hit pretty well for me. The Chloe's card of like scry a bunch and then eventually do this thing that is like very bizarre, right? Which is Guff was a great pick for that. He's a weird lore character, and he's going to do an effect that we really haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah. the way that interacts with the scry and with like the meaning of the cards and everything, I think that's really great.
Yeah, rewrite the ending. And like you're going straight to the ending because you're going to like zap 29 cards from your library or something. I just
Yeah.
noticed the art credit on this is Chloe Montgomery, age 28 and a half. Because I
Uh-huh.
think the original was the Morrow card that had an
Mhm.
illustration, also had the age on there. Yeah, that's another little bonus there. I, I'm so pleased by the cartoon art on this card, I guess.
Yeah. Uh, so the halfway end of one design challenge means the beginning of
Mm.
another.
Mhm,
For our
mhm.
February design challenge, we have Febru Air
Oh, yeah.
Elemental. Design a 4/4 flyer with mana value 5.
Yeah.
Have you ever cast, Air Elemental? Have you ever
Air
have you ever killed
Elemental,
somebody?
you would have been happy to have an air elemental for about like 12 years of magic
It
in
was
limited.
so good. It was the bomb. It was incredible.
I'm looking forward to this 4/4 flyer. Like this is a nice size for a creature. This has a natural value on the battlefield. You can go way higher and make a commander. You can try to go a little lower and try to like figure out other ways to like cheat this in or something, like a discount if you want to try to like build around it. I think there's a lot of room.
Yeah, and being a 4/4 mana a 4/4 flyer, for 5 mana, we have some bonus points here, which are Februara Angel. It's a pun on Sarah Angel. It might be a little hard to to
I love
get
it.
over
Nope,
over the pod.
never apologize.
Give it exactly one other keyword in the way that Sarah Angel is a 4/4/4/3 white, no white with flying and vigilance.
Mhm.
And Bru'er is human. Make
Yeah.
it a human.
Give us like just like a powerful floating human, like maybe a human, it could be a human bird, a team up card, something like that would be fun too. I think this the Sarah Elemental, the Februara, yeah, that's how I should say that. Angel bonus point. I think this is also like give it one other keyword. You could just give it like Death Touch or whatever, but you can also make up your own keyword. That's part of the idea here. Is like come up with a new thing to put that like fits well on this big flyer, and just like tease us with a new keyword, which is that's always a little more challenging. Come up with a brand new keyword.
Mhm. And human, it's not difficult to make a card a human, but hey, a 4/4
Yeah,
that's a flyer, it's like,
yeah,
okay, most not every human in Magic the Gathering is a 4/4 or a flyer, much less both.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
we're excited to see everyone's submissions, and those will be due February 27th.
Yeah, and so that's our podcast for this week. We do have the second half coming, so look forward to that next week with all the other submissions, including the first submission from my brother. Brr, 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 brr. Hop on the Discord to chat with everybody. You Make the Pack is, I think, just wrapping up, so hop in to
Mhm.
see what the final card was for You Make the Pack, the battle multiplayer battle format that people concocted. This is normally where I throw to you for anything that you have, but I have a shout out this week. Discord member Xena has a game that came out yesterday as we're recording this called
Ooh.
Surreality Check. It's on Steam. It's only a couple bucks. It's on sale until the 14th. This is kind of a mystery visual novel, sort of choose your own adventure kind of thing. So if you want to check out one of those kinds of games, please check out Surreality Check. I might try to check that out this weekend.
Oh, yeah. I look forward to looking into that. You can find us on the internet, but you can also just find us in the Discord.
Most of all, thanks everyone for listening.
Do you think a two-parter is more like a transforming DFC or more like a
Ooh,
modal DFC?
well, I guess you could listen to them in either order,
Mhm.
but I guess the second episode has a higher mana cost, so it can't happen that early in the game. The game being life.
Yeah, that makes sense.